The first thing I remember is the smell. Not food, though later I'd be told there'd been grilled meat, sweet sauces, the usual noise of a crowded backyard, but something sterile, clean in a way that didn't belong to summer. It sat in the back of my throat before anything else made sense. Then the ceiling came into focus. Too white, too still, I didn't move right away. Not out of fear, just recalibration. Like waking up in a hotel room and needing a second to remember which city you're in. There was no one beside the bed, no jacket draped over a chair, no phone charging on the side table that wasn't mine, no quiet, waiting presence. Just the steady, indifferent rhythm of a monitor. I tried to rewind. The barbecue came back in fragments, not scenes. Sound more than image. Laughter layered over itself. Someone telling the same story twice because no one had really been listening the first time. My wife moving between groups with practiced ease, adjusting tone depending on who she stood next to. I remember standing near the drinks table longer than necessary. Not thirsty, just pausing. There had been a moment small, forgettable to anyone else, where I felt something shift inside my chest. Not pain exactly. More like a tightening that didn't follow any familiar pattern. I'd considered sitting down. I didn't. It wasn't pride, it was calculation. A quiet assessment of whether it would be taken seriously or turned into something light, something dismissible. I already knew the likely outcome. So I stayed where I was. Let the moment pass. I remember thinking I'd step away in a minute. Then nothing, not even the fall. What came next wasn't memory, it was residue, voices, but without sequence. My wife's voice first, not raised, just close. He does this sometimes. And then her mother, clearer than everything else, like a sentence that had weight behind it. Don't call an ambulance. He's just seeking attention. There hadn't been panic in her tone. That was what stayed with me even now. It had been certain, decided. After that, time dissolved. When the door opened, I turned my head slowly. The doctor didn't rush in. He didn't look surprised to see me awake either. Just checked the chart, then me. "You're up," he said, like it had been expected all along. My voice didn't sound like mine yet. "How long?" "A few hours." I nodded, though it didn't land properly. He explained things carefully. Not simplified, just structured. Something about my heart rhythm. A condition that could stay quiet until it didn't. Something that, when it escalated, required immediate attention. "You were brought in later than we would have liked," he added, not accusing, just factual. I let that sit. "Do you remember what happened before you lost consciousness?" "Yes." "Were you alone?" I hesitated, not because I didn't know the answer, but because saying it out loud felt like finalizing something. "No." He studied me for a moment, not skeptically, more like he was aligning what he saw with what he'd been told. "We'll need to document the delay," he said. "Standard procedure." There it was, quiet, but immovable. Something official had entered the situation. Not dramatic, not confrontational, just recorded, not subject to reinterpretation later. I nodded again. He moved on to next steps, monitoring, medication, follow-ups, words that implied continuity, something beyond this room. When he left, the silence felt different, less empty, more defined. I reached for my phone. No missed calls, a single message from my wife, time-stamped 2 hours earlier. "Let me know when you're awake." No question mark, no urgency. I stared at it longer than I needed to, then set the phone down. It wasn't anger that came. Not even hurt, exactly. It was something more structural, like a realization settling into place after being loosely assembled for years. A pattern, finally complete. Later, a nurse came in and asked about my emergency contact. I gave her a different name. It wasn't dramatic. I didn't explain it. She just wrote it down and nodded. That small shift felt larger than anything I could have said out loud. My wife arrived near evening. She walked in with the same energy she carried at the barbecue, contained, composed, slightly inconvenienced by things that didn't align with her expectations. "You scared everyone," she said, setting her bag down like she was placing it into a familiar routine. I watched her for a moment. Everyone. The word didn't quite hold. "I'm okay," I said. She nodded, relieved in a way that seemed more logistical than emotional. "They said it wasn't serious. They were wrong." That paused her. Just slightly. I didn't elaborate. Not because I wanted to withhold, but because I no longer felt responsible for translating the weight of it into something she could comfortably accept. She adjusted. Quickly. "Well, you're here now." Yes, I was. And for the first time, that fact didn't feel connected to her or to them at all. She stayed for a while, talking around the edges of things. The barbecue. Her mother. Plans for the week. Normalcy. Carefully reconstructed. I listened. Not passively, just without stepping in to carry it forward. When she left, she said she'd come back tomorrow. I didn't respond right away, not out of defiance, just consideration. After she was gone, I looked at the ceiling again. It hadn't changed, still too white, still too still. But something in me had. The doctor's words echoed not the diagnosis, but the implication beneath it. This had required urgency, and somewhere between the ground and this bed, that urgency had been denied. Not by accident. By decision. I closed my eyes, not to sleep, but to settle into that understanding fully without softening it. There would be conversations eventually. Explanations offered. Versions reshaped. But something had already moved past that. Quietly. Permanently. I didn't need them to agree with what happened. I just needed to stop pretending it hadn't.